What's up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to Dialogues and Dice here on Howreroll on a Tuesday. All of you that enjoyed Memorial Day or celebrated Memorial Day, I hope you had a good one. So, joining us tonight for her first ever trip on to Dialogues and Dice is Dicetress. Good evening, how are you?
Great, thank you for having me. Hi guys, how are you guys?
Alrighty, so we've got a bunch of stuff for you tonight. We're going to go over the adventure recap, so any of you guys that are going to miss, or that have been missing the show so far, there's only been 3 episodes, so there's not a whole lot you could have really missed. But Dicetress will do her best to bring you up to speed with that. In the character update, we will talk to Liv in all her druidly glory. NPC Spotlight tonight, we are going to focus on Mr. Awadi and give you some details and some information that you guys would not otherwise know about him. We've got some gaming news where there's an up-and-coming game that's coming out that I think you guys are going to be very interested in, so we're going to take a look at that. Let's talk this evening.
What?
GANING, thank you for subscribing. Take your pants off. I would have James say that, but she's not here.
Thank you.
So that really is on you.
Well then, take your pants off.
There you go. Take your pants off. Take your pants off.
What?
Abhijiguru, thank you for resubscribing. 15 months. Take your pants off as well, although I'm pretty sure you've already got them off. And lots of love for our resubs and our new subs, so thank you for that. Any more? Want to hit that button before I go on? Nope. Nope. Okay. All right. Free balling for 15 months. Actually, there is another one. Lima Oscar Lima, thank you for hitting that as well. Or should we just call you LOL84? Give him some love too. Yeah, Lima Oscar Lima, or LOL for short. Awesome sauce. Alrighty. So yeah, lots of stuff to go over tonight. So let's kick things off. We're going to go ahead and open stuff up with our first segment this evening, which, as always, is the adventure recap. And as I said, this is Dicetress's first shot at this, doing this short recap. It's an easy one right now because you don't have a lot to get in inside of 10 minutes. Ninja, thank you for resubscribing. Deluded Raven, thank you for subscribing. Lots and lots and lots of love and hype.
Awesome.
There you go. Appreciate it. Nick the Rat, thanks for hitting the follow button, buddy.
Cool, Nick.
Also, before the show started, let me thank Zern for following. And RTJ Alchemy, thank you for subscribing. He subscribed while we was off air, so thanks a bunch for that. And there's quite a few of you that subscribe while or have hit follow since we're off air. So if you're here watching us and you hit follow in the last day or two, thank you, and we very much appreciate it. Junk Farmer, thank you for subscribing, resubscribing. The wall of hype and rollies continues.
Whoa, nice.
There we go. Awesome sauce. And yes, if any of you in chat want to join our Discord, message me. And yeah, there you go. Shaggin's got this. He can get you set up. So if you're a new subscriber, don't forget to go to our website, www.howreroll.com, and join the subscriber tavern. And also make sure to get the subscriber Discord channel information. There you go. Alrighty. Lots of love today, indeed. Cannot complain. Alright, let's kick on with our very first section.
Adventure recap.
The adventure recap. Here we go. So, Dicetress, why don't you bring us up to speed? Tell everybody what has basically happened in the story so far.
What has basically happened in this story so far? Okay. So the story starts out of a group of inmates. They were on a prison ship, bound and gagged, when smash! The ship rams into a rock, causing massive hole to be opened up inside. Water pours through, the inmates' bonds slacken, and they were released. Then, they went up the plank out the door, and 2 of the inmates stayed behind to help a lady that was stuck to the floor. And they freed her, and they made their way out. Splash into the water they go, looking for debris, barrels, floating devices, things of that nature, and the group floated on, unsure where to go and what's going to happen, but they just kept keeping on until they heard the noise of dun 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 shark. And nobody had any of that bat repellent spray, but turns out the sharks weren't really interested into them. They were interested more into the dead people that were below from the prison ship. Yay! So the adventurers keep on keeping on to the island. When they get onto the island, everybody's kind of fatigued for the most part, little leery of who everybody is and why they're there and if they could trust them or not. But they all decided that they probably should stick together as a team. Shortly then after, Azuati came into the picture. So Azuati was hiding out by this tree, and he was looking kind of, I don't know, a little skeptical, right? So we decided to approach him quietly and cautiously. Well, we except for one, I should say, but it's cool. And Azuati told us that he was actually a pretty cool dude, and he was trapped on the island as well, but I guess by later he decided to be trapped later on the island because he wanted to be. He said he would take us back to his camp or his cave, and there he would give us food and water. So we trekked it on through the jungle. Welcome to the jungle! So we trekked it on to the jungle, and ba-boom! Cannibals happened! So the 4 of us had to face off cannibals, which was crazy. But we succeeded triumphantly, made it through. And then Azuwadi took us back to his cave, fed us, gave us some water, and then he took off, allowing us to talk for a little while. And when we talked, we learned about a couple of things that our adventurers were seeking. The 2 other adventurers were kind of quiet on their stories, which is cool. Azuwadi returned, and he said he had a boat, and if we wanted to use it, we could, but it was in disrepair. So the group decided to eat, sleep, wake up the next morning, and head over to the boat. The banana boat. No, not really. It was a boat covered full of moss and green stuff. The druid decided that she knew how to work some wood tool crafting. So she crafted up the boat as best she could, but noticed there was a mast and a sail missing from this. It's not going to work very well.
Red 5 Dan, thanks for the follow. And Troy Foolery, thank you for the follow.
Woo! Follow. So Azuati said, hey, those cannibal guys might have a sail and a mast at their camp. If you guys want to go towards them, go for it. So our group decided to first position our boat in an area that we could leave quickly. And then they decided to go into Cannibal Central to scout them out to see if they can maybe get a sail and a mast. So they did. It got darker and darker. They devised a plan, and sure enough, they got the sail, trekked it back to the boat, attached said mast, attract said sail. The mast was cut down by our barbarian, awesome barbarian. We constructed the rest of the boat. On the boat we went, and into the water we go for a couple of weeks until ship madness overtook us. And once ship madness overtook us, some things happened. Somebody might have turned to a cat, maybe a bear. And then shortly after that, we had a ship that arrived full of lecherous guys that we don't know who or what they are. But lucky, the druid threw some fog down, and then she made herself into a cat, ran up to a crow's nest, and she's scouting up top, and the gang is on top of the ship. And they are face to face with whoever these people are on the ship right now, and that's where we left off.
That's pretty much it in a nutshell. Here's us in a nutshell. Yep, it's strange folk aboard a ship, which the fog has kind of worked both ways because they can't really see very clearly who it is. All they know is as Lilith, Emlyn, and Tolgar stand on the deck, there's a big circle of strange people all the way around them and kind of just moved in closer out of the mist and the fog. And that's pretty much where we're going to be picking things up on Thursday. So that brings you up to speed with the current state of play. Next, we are going to talk to Olivia, aka Liv, in our character update section.
Character update.
What questions do you have for Liv?
The character update, where we're going to talk to Liv and get a whole bunch of information. So, the first thing that we're going to ask Liv is, so you found yourself thrown clear from your lifelong prison sentence that would have been aboard an island. The ship went down and you're on an island, a separate island, a small tropical island, where you are pretty much thrown in with three strange individuals. The massive and mighty looking Tolgar, the strange and shady looking horned figure of Emlyn, and the athletic, smirking, and kind of sinister looking Lilith. So give us your initial takes. What does Liv think about each of these individuals at the present? Because of course, you haven't had much time to really assess them.
Well, she equates, I equate everything into nature and animals. So Tolgar, for example, when I met him, I thought instantly he was a gorilla, a strong warrior, and he has very high organization skills, such as I have observed the gorillas to do in nature. I also kind of fear Tolgar a little bit because I do know some of his background. His tribe's slightly evil-ish, I suppose. So I'm a little leery of him. But to me, he seems fine, except for maybe that time when he grabbed the scruff of my neck and put me eyes to eyes with him. I wasn't exactly thrilled with that, but other than that, Tolgar's fine.
Okay. So, I mean, the circumstances that you've been in thus far, obviously nothing favorable, not the sort of thing that you would choose to find yourself in. So what does Liv think about where she's found herself, the circumstance that she's currently in?
Well, at first, I was fine with the circumstances where I was in. I was on an island, a beautiful island full of jungle plants and vegetation. I was actually kind of happy about it. The thought of going back to civilization is quite worrisome, especially when I knew I was bounded for a prison camp. So I was actually kind of happy about the island.
Right, yeah, I mean, it's, for you, not being on that ship and being on an island is obviously a huge plus. Well, for anybody that didn't drown or was eaten by sharks, it's a huge bonus to actually be free. But then, of course, you find out that the island is owned and pretty much being strip-mined by cannibals. How did you feel about those little fellows?
Well, that is a conundrum. You see, I was taught that we weren't ever supposed to eat humans, especially as a druid. And now to see that, and to know that they had fish that they could have been eating, but chose not to, instead killing off all the animals and eating humans, it's worrisome. I mean, is that the right thing to do?
Apparently for some. Obviously the cannibals seem to think it is. I mean, and this is one of the things that when we talk about Awadi a little bit later, there'll be a bit more information that kind of alludes to that. But the bottom line is with these cannibals, as you've already noticed, there are next to no animals on this island other than the occasional bird or rodent. You've seen really nothing much of any size, which is pretty bizarre and pretty strange. How does Liv feel about the fact that nature seems to have gone awry here?
Well, I hate it. It's unbalanced. It's not right. It's not proper. The only thing that could be worse is if there was dead walking around, but thank the gods there's not.
Yeah, it could be worse. There could be undead. But yeah, bottom line is, these cannibals have pretty much strip-mined this island of life. There's 60 of them. And this is not a very big island, so that's a very large population for somewhere so small. And maybe the fact that they have pretty much eaten all of the living creatures on the island itself, of course, finding all the furs and the hides and stuff would allude to their killing. There's obviously some animals were here at some point. And of course they can fish. But maybe this is why they've turned to cannibalism, in fact. Stalknackers, thank you for subscribing. Give that person some hype and love.
Woo.
And if you haven't already done it, take your pants off. Alrighty. So yeah, it's... You know, they started... There's like this island, there's a cluster of islands. And they're all within a mile or two of each other. So, I mean, some of them can be seen from the beach. But the cannibals pretty much have been visiting other islands and taking their people and taking them back and killing them, eating them alive. Obviously, this is where Awadi comes in. So, from a nature... It's kind of like a strange thing, because obviously you're a druid. So you see things a little bit differently than the average person, because you're much more in tune with nature. So... Would you think that if this is the natural course of what this tribe have chosen to do, is it natural? Or are they pretty much going against nature? For example, a tiger would bring down other animals and eat them. Would it ever truly start eating itself? Would a bear do that? What circumstance could lead to particular, to typical natural animals to cannibalize each other? Do you think that would happen in natural society, or do you think that this is just a byproduct of humanity?
Well, I do know that some animals do eat similar animals, carrion, but it's a hard call, and it is troublesome. In animal form myself, I've never eaten one of my own kind, but I have transformed into other animals that have eaten those animals. So I'm a little puzzled as to whether that's an okay thing or not. As a society, we were taught not to eat humans, and that is like a foundation, a fundamental thing. I've never actually killed a human,
right?
And still haven't. But I don't know if it's something that is a new thing, if nature is changing, if the balance has somehow been tipped, or what. I just don't know.
So, as you just said, you've never killed a human before,
Right.
And probably never killed any form of two-legged person, be it dwarf, elf, halfling, whatever. How did you feel when basically you were thrown into that situation where you were all fighting for your lives? I mean, Tulgar, he did not hesitate in beginning to hack those cannibals to pieces. He very quickly went in and started attacking things. So, it was very, very barbaric, which is ironic because he is a barbarian. How did that make Liv feel to suddenly be thrown into this scenario where... Because, while you didn't literally kill any, you did have to draw on your natural talents a little bit to help in that scenario where you shot pretty much like a venom out of your eyes, partially to blind and injure and whatever these cannibals as they attacked you. Is that the first time that you'd ever really had to fight anybody like that for your life?
Yes, that is the first time I've ever had to fight anybody like that for my life. I mean, there was one other time, but it's not really relevant. But yeah, I never really had to do that before. I was taught how to defend myself against other animals in the wilds, but not humans or humanoids or anything like that.
Right.
It's...
Yeah, it's... So, with all these things that have happened to you, and I know we're not going to go into your past, but just the things that have happened here, how does that play into your way of thinking and why you are doing the things that you're doing currently? I know at one point you were suspicious that Awadi might have actually been somehow part of the cannibalistic tribe, or definitely, if not a friend, because you almost, I mean, at one point you attacked him. Fortuitously, you missed, and later I think you come to realize that, okay, yeah, that was a bad call, he wasn't a bad guy, but I don't think necessarily anyone would blame you for thinking that initially at that point either. But how has this kind of changed your outlook on things? How do you look at things a little bit differently now because of these circumstances?
Well, the world is changing, apparently. Things are not as they used to be, especially not in the village I grew up in, where things were easier and more peaceful. Sure, it had its hard times, but things were not the same as they are here. What's happening is, in my own mind, is I'm coming to know that I need to change myself and go into a different direction and think differently, perhaps. And maybe the things that I've been taught aren't the right things.
Maybe they are the right things, but maybe there's a side to the world that you just haven't really had a chance to see yet.
It's possible.
But, you know, who knows? Definitely some eye-opening things have happened to you here on the island, and I'm sure plenty more eye-opening things will happen to you as you endeavor to try to right some wrongs and reacquaint yourself with a part of your recent past that is very, very important to you.
What I've learned is to reassess every situation. So as things do come up, I do reassess who I am and what is going on in my own mind as far as what I should do next.
Well, we'll have to see what happens, and we will find out Thursday what Liv and the rest of the motley band of anti-heroes is going to do. So we thank Liv for joining us, and we are going to move on to our next segment, where we are indeed going to talk about Mr. Awadi in the next section that we're heading to now, which is our NPC Spotlight.
NPC Spotlight.
The NPC Spotlight. Today we are going to be talking about Awadi. Now, Awadi, if you haven't already figured out, he is pretty much the person that is talking. He's doing the narration during the intro of the show. He pretty much alludes to the fact that he was on the beach and he saw these 4 strangers be washed up. He was trying to hide from them, but then they saw him. Something about them reeked of some form of destiny, and he was initially very, very intimidated by them. So we're going to kind of look at Awadi, figure out where he comes from, discuss why he acts the way he will, and also kind of look at a few things that our heroes kind of reflected and made decisions and judgments and looked at him in different lights and kind of highlight what some of that was. So Awadi was born a tribesman, much like these cannibals, but a much more peaceful tribe. Several miles away from the island that our heroes found themselves on. And he grew up to be pretty much a hunter-fisherman. Now, Awadi's tribe, unlike the cannibals, were very much more in tune with nature. They were very limited on the number of land animals that they killed. They were very cautious to allow the animals to continue to populate. So they didn't really do what the cannibals did, and that is just kill, 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 eat, oh crap, there's nothing left. They're very conscious of that. So Awadi, part of his upbringing is to have a much better understanding of nature than these cannibals on this island that our heroes ventured into. He's also a very capable fisherman. I would say that Awadi's tribe would pretty much live 80% on fish and 20% off the land, be it small animals, whether it was fruits, vegetables, and things like that. The other thing, because they had a huge respect for nature, they would use every single part of that animal. If they killed an animal on the island, They were not only going to eat the meat, but they, and again, like the cannibals, they used the hide, but they would literally use every portion of it and saw it as a crime not to. So this kind of gives you a little bit of an understanding to the level of quote-unquote humanity that Awadi stands for. In many ways, he is closer to Liv than any of the other characters in personality, because he has a lot of this. Well, Awadi was an accomplished hunter and fisher, very skilled tracker, and one day, a few boats arrive on the shore, and all of a sudden these brutal cannibals just descend on Awadi's tribe. Awadi's tribe has never had to fight. They've never been warfaring. They're in a secluded little island, way away from most of civilization. They were ill prepared for this. In no time at all, the vicious cannibals subdued most of them, killed half of them, and those that weren't just murdered and butchered, they took back to their island. Awadi had to sit and watch as his family and friends, one by one, were boiled alive, skinned and eaten. Now, at one point, and we're going to talk specifically, probably more from Tolgar's perspective than anybody else, when they first met the cannibals, the very first thing Awadi did was run and hide behind a tree, which Tolgar thought was incredibly cowardly, because that is not the way a tribesman should act. And he did. He hid. And it wasn't until right at the very end, when it was clear to him that the anti-heroes were winning this battle, did he even bother to venture out. And then it was almost like he was just going to show up and chime in right at the very end, which again could be considered pretty cowardly. Now this is the point where Liv thought he's hidden the entire time, and now all of a sudden, as Lilith stands there, he was approaching Lilith from behind. So I think that's what triggered you to think, oh crap, he's fixing to do something bad against us, right?
Before I actually viewed him as a possum, but then he became a raccoon in my head. Right?
So, you know, at that point, as it turned out, he was actually coming to aid Lilith, but initially, they didn't know that. He never alluded to it. But again, let's look at Awadi. There are these four strangers. He's interested in them for two reasons. One, they're clearly nothing he's ever seen before. But more importantly, he is lonely. Awadi has lived on this island with the cannibals for months. Now, why did Awadi not end up in the pot? The reason he didn't was because through a fortuitous turn of events, he managed to, as they're cutting him down, ready to put him in the pot, it's his turn to die. He was playing possum, they were distracted, and he literally saw a chance and ran. Now, being a very skilled tracker, he was able to hide in the jungle, disappear, make sure that they couldn't find him. They pursued him for a couple of weeks, and then finally, when he realized they were not going to give up, they weren't. So Awadi leapt from the westernmost cliff into the water and the rocks below. Now, this is something similar that he had done as a test of manhood on his island. So he has done that before. It was a risk because he really wasn't familiar with this, but he was, in his head, was, okay, you know what? These SOBs are not going to put me in the pot. If I die doing this, so be it. They assumed he was dead, and they left. At this point, Awadi then skulked around on the island, trying to survive, and slowly but surely was working on a way to escape. He had found a boat that he had started to repair, but he had to keep it hidden because he knew that if the cannibals found it, they would be aware that someone was around. So after you hid all of that, one sec. He started to have a change of thought. Now, Awadi started to think that the spirits were talking to him. He had these voices in his head. He started hearing things that were happening. Truth is, Awadi was actually starting to go a little bit crazy. But in his mind, it's the spirits were talking to him. And this is why he had decided he didn't want to leave the island anymore. He didn't have a family to go back to. He didn't want to go back home. So at the end of the day, he had decided, as the spirits were talking to him, he was going to try and tough it out on the island. And that is the reason he helped those guys. Now, let's look at the concept of him being a coward. Well, if you stop and think about it, he watched his family and friends brutalized and eaten alive. There's terror that's going to come with that. I don't care how brave you are. That's terrifying, right? So that's really, really a strange thing right there to have to comprehend. But then, on top of that, he chose to stay on this island. Of course, he'd gotten good at hiding from the cannibals, but he's choosing to stay put, all in the name of spiritualization. So he's not really something you could call to be a coward. In fact, in many ways, he's incredibly brave. But that's, when you look at things, this just kind of highlights how, on face value, you can look at an NPC, you can look at a player character and make a judgment based on the singular actions that they do. But until you truly understand their motivations, as they say, walk a mile in their shoes, it's hard to really kind of fathom. So at the end of the day, however, once our heroes had gotten, or anti-heroes, got what they wanted from Awardi, they were out of there. I mean, they jumped on the boat, they left, and didn't give him a second thought. And I don't necessarily know that I would blame them either, with the fear of tons and tons and tons of, cannibals chasing behind them. So, but that pretty much gives you the general rundown on Awardi, who is the NPC spotlight for this evening. Kind of gives you some insight into how he acted, and why he acted the way he did. So, Liv, what was your general thoughts about this dude? Maybe initially when you met him, and then towards the end.
In the beginning, like I said, I viewed him as a possum. I wasn't sure if he was leading us into a trap, and then he was going to just lay there and die, or what exactly he was going to do. But when he struck out in the middle of the cannibal scene, I thought maybe he is on their side, and maybe he is changing into something else. And so, of course, I had to attack.
Right, there you
go. After that, he became a raccoon in my head, because he was a scavenger and a survivor. And listening to his story, I did realize that, and I felt very sorry for him, because I too am a survivor.
Right. Did you think that there was a potential that he had gone a bit touched in the head, or do you think that when he said that it was the spirits talking to him, what do you make of that? Do you think that it was spirits, or do you think he was potentially just going a little bit wacko?
Well, I wasn't exactly sure 100% what was in the alcohol he was drinking. It was juniper and something else. So perhaps it was something to do with that.
Right, because he was indeed a beachcomber, and obviously, as your ship found, there are very dangerous rocks out there. Your ship was not supposed to be anywhere near those islands. Of course, it was blown off of course by the terrible storms. So, in his cave, he had various different provisions, supplies, and obviously a fair hefty portion or helping of rum and stuff like that as well, which he tried very hard to get you guys to partake on. Who was it that actually, he had the bottle at one point and then conveniently accidentally dropped it on the floor? Was that you, or was that Tolga or somebody? I can't remember.
That was me. Part of Liv's background is sometimes she has the potential of picking things up and dropping them. So, oops.
We'll find out why, I'm sure, as things go on. Interesting stuff. But yes, so that's your NPC spotlight for this evening. Hopefully that gives you a little bit more insight into who Awardi was and his part to play in our story so far. So we're going to move on, and we've got a little bit of news for you guys on an up-and-coming product. I think a lot of you are going to be very interested in this, so we're going to push forward into our next segment.
Gaming news.
Gaming news. So, if you have not yet heard of this game, it is called Agony. Interesting name right there, I guess. Agony is a new game that is currently in production. Now, it is being produced by a Polish studio called MadMind, which was established earlier this year. And it's a new company, but don't let that fool you, because their talents that they have hired are responsible for The Witcher 3, The Division, Enemy Front, among others. So according to the studio write-up, players will begin their journey as a tormented soul within the depths of hell without any memories about his past. Sounds like a perfect holiday, really, doesn't it? The special ability to control people on that path and even possess simple-minded demons gives the player the necessary measures to survive in the extreme conditions that are hell. By exploring hostile environments and interacting with the other weary souls in the hellscape, you, the hero, will understand that there is only one way to escape from hell, and that will require you meeting the mystical Red Goddess, who is a demon who is the key to retrieving your lost memories. Graphically, this game looks incredibly impressive. It's going to be available, not going to be out until 2007. It will be released for the PC, Xbox One, and PS4. And we're going to show you the intro video for this here in just a moment. We're going to kind of give our thoughts on this. So it is a very unique idea, because Doom, for example, dealt with the minions of hell. It's not the first time that you've been battling demons, but the idea that it's kind of like an adventure game, a role-playing game where you actually have to escape from hell, but it's an actual first-person shooter concept, much like Doom. So I don't know yet if there's going to be a multiplayer version of this, or if it's going to be just a heavy first-person story mode game. What are your thoughts on it, Dicetress? Did you get a chance to look at this game much?
I did look at it. It looks like it's going to be a hell of a lot of fun. I've never Twitch streamed a video game before. The only Twitch streaming I've ever done is what you see right here in front of you. But I would love to do this. This looks like so much fun. I love horror and graphics and just the concept of escaping hell. I'm like, right? Yeah, let's do it.
That was it for me. It's like, it rings of, even though this is a first-person shooter with a role-play game element, the very concept of escaping hell is just so tabletop. It's so fantasy genre. It's exactly. Like, who hasn't done this at some point or want to have done this?
What I don't know, though, if it's going to take the element of Witcher, which depends on what you do in the game, if it has an outcome on the effects down the road, the end story.
Right,
I haven't found that
cool.
out, but if it is, that would be fantastic, because that would really bring the RPG level in.
Absolutely, and that was one of the things with Witcher. It increases the replayability of a game like that, too.
Exactly.
Because, you can go through it again and make different choices and stuff like that.
DLC is awesome on it. Loved it. So much fun.
Right. So, the very fact that these guys, the talent behind this new studio, are responsible for those games, it's got to give you some hope. If you want to get a quick sneak peek of what this thing looks like, we can show you that right now. So here you go. Here is a little bit of an insight into Agony, up-and-coming game that is running out of Polish Studios Mastermind. Here we go.
The fall. It's the last thing I remember. Memories tear apart my soul, consumed by the endlessly burning fire. Revealing ruined bones. I'm falling into the darkest place, where light causes pain, and darkness brings deprives one of faith and erases memories, which leads to madness and emphasizes the boundary between people and beasts. The Red Goddess. Her shine shrouds other memories. She is the key to the gate of unending agony. She is the answer. The Red Goddess. The road that I must follow.
Alrighty, so yes, there you go. There's a brief preview of Agony coming soon to a game near you in 2007. 2007. Wow, hey, 2017.
2017.
There you go, right? Go
Looking
to hell, you
amazeballs.
say. Don't mind if I do. So there we go. All right, well, we're going to move on to our next segment this evening, where we're going to have a little chat between ourselves, and we will encourage you guys to chime in as we move into our next segment. Let's talk.
Let's talk.
So, today, let's talk the subject, becoming a new dungeon master. So, we thought that this was appropriate. We've got two people on the ends of the spectrum here. Dicetress herself, while she has been playing role-playing games for many, many, many years, shortly after 5th edition was released, about a year and a half ago, you decided to put on the DM mantle and actually start running some
Yes.
games.
And it was a lot of fun.
So, was or is? Are you done?
Oh, I'm still doing it. Dead Dice Society, we're doing that. It's what took off from it. But at first we did a whole bunch of one-shots. We weren't exactly sure if we wanted to do a campaign or not. And eventually it just kind of all rolled into one. And I was like, this is pretty amazing. Do you guys feel like you want to put something out there, content out there? And they were like, yeah, let's do it. So that's where we are today. Did a couple of recordings, still working in Adobe Audition on it. But soon it'll be out, soonish. Can't give an approximate date, learning edition, so learning curve.
Alrighty. So when you first decided to do this, obviously, as you said, you had a lot of experience as a player.
Right.
What got you what was it that kind of pushed you to start DMing?
The creativeness and the accents of NPCs. I wanted to become different characters and not just stick to the ones I was playing. So that's what drew me to it. Plus, I wanted to create my own world, my own environment, my own everything. It just seemed like a lot of fun.
So when you first started, I'm of an opinion, and again, this is just an opinion. I know some people share this. I'm sure there are others that don't. But while we have had numerous Dungeon Master's guides put out, from basic all the way through, ever since White Box, there was a Dungeon Master's guide. And, you know, we went White Box, and then you went through the Red, Blue, and all those boxes, and then we had Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and then 2nd edition, and 3, and 3.5, and 4, and here we are on 5e, and every one of them has brought with it a Dungeon Master's guide. Each one has focused heavily on telling you how to dungeon master the game from a mechanical standpoint, understanding the rules. And yet, I don't believe yet that there has really been a dungeon master guide that has attacked the concept of how to be a dungeon master, how to do the job outside of just knowing what the rules are and giving you mechanical things like understanding terrain and all this sort of stuff. What are your thoughts on that?
I have to agree. There's probably definitely a niche maybe for somebody to write something about that, a separate dungeon master, how to be a dungeon master.
Right.
It's not just about creating the world and the environments and the NPCs. It's also about anticipating what your player characters want out of the game and how they're going to play the game. So it has a lot more to deal with that as well, and it's not really addressed so much in any books I've ever read as far as D&D or Call of Cthulhu or White Wolf stuff, you know.
Right, and they
It's
pretty
never
much
really touched
all
on
do
it.
that, don't they? It's the same thing. Is they all address the same things when it comes to the gameplay. They tell you about how to award experience points, how to
Right.
create
The rolling
interesting
tables.
encounters. Right.
Yes.
And yet, very few of them ever kind of tell you about the nuances of how to capture the feel of the game, how to do a good job of storytelling. They never explain really in any depth about the things to think about as you create a world, or how to put depth into an NPC. This is one of the reasons why, and someone's already posted it up, one of the reasons I started doing the DM blog was because
Right.
it gave me an opportunity to share some of that based on experience and stuff that I've gone through in the past, and throw it out there. But I know that by no means is that the only resource on the internet. You can Google the crap out of this stuff. So where did you go first? What was your avenue for learning to start to develop your craft as a dungeon master, as a new DM?
Well, I'm going to have to say Absolute Tabletop, Be a Better Game Master. Barker is amazing. He has a way of explaining things that is very creative and very capturing. And if you watch any of his gameplay, it's extremely narrative. And I kind of, my style is kind of based off of their style as far as that.
Right. Yeah, I mean, and that's, as I said, there's a lot of different resources out there on Google. I would say I've seen at least 20 or more YouTube channels on how to be a better DM. And every one of them will hit on the same basic points, and then at the same time, they will all give you a variety of opinion on different things, because everybody has a different style. And that is one of the things that you kind of like, you notice as you play more, and actually experience more and more games in different genres. I can tell you some different countries, like the way that D&D is played in a lot of the ways in the UK versus over here. There's differences, specific differences, and a lot of that, of course, is cultural. And also there's a huge difference based on the editions that people learned with, because 5e has a very different feel than Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, for example. So a lot of it kind of depends on where you pick that up from. And I did an article specifically on that, about developing your Dungeon Master persona. And the reason I wrote that article was because I looked at so many different people that DM and realized what all of the good ones did was to be unique. Every one of them didn't try to emulate somebody else. They didn't try to be, they weren't trying to be Matt Mercer. They weren't trying to be Barker. They weren't trying to be me or anybody else. They were trying to develop it themselves. And the ones that pretty much, and this is a common thing, when you don't know better, all you can do is emulate. So that's what you do, you emulate. And then as you begin to learn and hone your craft, you start realizing how you want to do things differently, why you want to do them differently. And it's not necessarily you disagree with somebody else, it's just your personality doesn't work that way.
Right.
And it's like and I'm not going to name anybody, but there's one DM out there that I could throw a name out, who is an incredible mechanical DM. He knows rules like nobody. The man is a walking thesaurus of, oh, that's on page 227, the second paragraph of the player's handbook. And he can quote anything. And when he runs a game, it is flawless, mechanically. But he doesn't have a voice that lends to voice acting. So he doesn't do it. And he knows he doesn't have a good voice for that, so he doesn't try to do that. Whereas I've seen some people that will try to do that and can't. And they would do so much better to stay clear of that. In the same way, I don't know about you, but I always have a Google tab open, and I have my books right here. Because I don't always remember everything. Back in the days of AD&D, when it was around for so long, and I was playing probably 60 to 70 hours a week, I almost did. But I don't now. I just don't. Without a book handy, without Google handy, sometimes I have to look stuff up. From other than just kind of watching that, what things have you found have really helped you and influenced your ability to kind of start doing this your own way?
Really watching a lot of the YouTube videos, and like you said, watching other people's style of playing. Playing in different tables on Roll20. For 3 months I just went through game after game after game and tried to figure out what I liked from each of those DMs. Hobby shops the same way. And I picked up little tidbits here and there where I was like, wow, that's amazing. That's exactly what I want to throw into my game. That's exactly what I want. And then there were some other things that I was like, oh, I really don't like it. Right. But like you said, the bottom line is to take the good and then to put your own style on it. And kind of how I did our recap with... That's kind of my style. I'm kind of quirky and silly, and it makes my players laugh. It's also serious. We have some serious dark side stuff going on too, but it's entertaining, and that's really what I want people to think and feel is that entertainment value. Right,
and that kind of brings us to the players. So one of the fundamental things you have to understand, and now we always have a little bit of a muddied water here, because streaming D&D for an audience changes a lot of things. It changes a lot of things that we, as players or as the dungeon master of a game, can and cannot do, because we have a lot of things to consider. Whereas around a tabletop, the only thing you have to consider is, do me and my players enjoy this game the way we're running it? Right. So, with that being said, fundamentally, there is no wrong way to play D&D. If you have a DM and a group of players that all agree on a certain type of game, then it's right for you. Just because some people don't like doing things a certain way, that's fine. If you're not at their table, it's irrelevant to you. So it's one of them things that, as a dungeon master, it becomes interesting to see, for me, how different players also have changed and adapted my playstyle and my DMing style. I wouldn't like to put a number on how many different groups I have run games for. But there are some that I can remember that I learned so much from running games for them because of the way they did things. Whether it was to learn how to stop them doing certain things and manipulating the game certain ways, or whether it was to encourage their role playability and encourage them to invest in the story where they're solely concentrating on their character. But that being said, it can be a real challenge for a new DM to find a group of players. We get asked all the time in chat. People are always saying, I want to run a game, but I don't have any players. I don't have any friends. Where can I find people to play? And we give the canned answer. Check your local hobby store. Go on the Roll20.net
Roll20,
forum.
Fantasy Grounds, yeah.
Look at the Google
One-shot
Plus.
Group.
Right, yeah. Look at the Google Plus. But the truth is, you're very lucky if you follow any one of those avenues and find a conducive group of people that all work well together and create a great group. Your first group, so are you DMing now for people that you used to play with as players, or
Yeah, actually, the people that I play with, they've come and gone. But the group I have now are people I've worked with or played with. Some of them were in our wedding. I'm married. So they were actually friends. We all live here in the same area. So it's a different kind of environment than if it was going into a hobby store and meeting people for the first time.
Right. Yeah, and it really is. My first experiences was when I was in secondary school, or high school, basically. First year of high school if you're in the US, secondary school if you're in the UK. I was about 11 years old, and I saw a group of kids that I would say right here and now, I was like, look at those nerds, that were all playing D&D. And I'm just being honest. This is back in the day, back in the late 70s, D&D had a huge stigma. It really did. It stank. And if you played it, you didn't tell people you played it, because you got beaten up or bullied or picked on or told. You know, Johnny's parents would say to Johnny, you can't play with Timmy because he plays that evil game, and I'm not having any part of that. And you guys know about all this, I'm sure. But there was this group of players, and I would watch them play from afar and be so curious. What are they doing? And finally plucked up the nerve to go over and ask one of them, and I got to sit in on a game, and I started playing and loved it. And then for my birthday, that year, I got my very first set of Dungeons & Dragons, and I played with my 2 cousins. So they were family, so they didn't have a choice. And those games were idiotically stupid, trust me, they were dumb. And then I got a little group of my friends together at school, and we started playing. And I would say every lunch break for the 4 to 5 years I was in high school, that is what we did. We went up to the geography room and we played, and it was the same group of kids. And then went on to college. And then there was all these people that knew what this game was, and there were different groups. And so I got to run for a lot of those. And then again, Mr. No Life here, at one point, literally for 3 years solid, we would leave college, go down the street to these 2 brothers, and there's a hilarious article on the DM's blog called The One with Two Brothers. These are the guys I'm talking about. Read that article. It's funny stuff. And we would get there about 6, and we'd play till midnight, Monday through Friday. Every day, bar none. Saturday, we would all descend on their house at 10 a.m., and we would play till midnight Saturday. And Sunday, we would show up at noon and play till about 10 o'clock. For 3 years, I don't think we missed a game session. And I think we had anywhere between 9 and 13 players at that point.
That's massive.
It was nuts. But we played Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay, D&D. But that was I was incredibly lucky, is what I'm trying to say, in having that outlet. And it sounds like you were as well, because you got these real-life people that were willing to play around an actual table.
High school, it was a little harder. I don't know if you really want to touch on this or not, but being a female and trying to branch into the gaming community, it was really frowned upon. And even though it's like I watched people play it, and I was like, hey, what are you doing? I want to get in. They kind of distanced themselves.
Right.
So they were like, oh, it's a guy thing, sorry. And I'm like, I'm just as dorky and nerdy as you are. Right. Here's my Magic the Gathering card. See, oh, look, hey. And so
that could have almost been the perfect scripted segue to what I was about to ask you next. So, oh, that was interesting.
There's a little hiccup.
Yep, Twitch just booted OBS. You're still there.
Oh, no.
Okay, that's really weird. It's back. I know the internet didn't go down because I wouldn't be talking to you.
We're
here. So if... one second. Yeah, Twitch hiccuped. I just got a thing come up. Refresh if you need to. It's good. It's not Comcast this time, guys. I can't blame Comcast this time. I'm going to give it a second to let people get back in. Okay, there we go. They're all coming down. Stream down and backish. There you go. Good. All right. So, we here on Howreroll, we have an amazing community, and it is a very diverse community. And once again, not going to say who, but I listened to a podcast today, and I liked what I heard. And then they referred to an infamous podcast that they had done about inclusion in role-playing games. And it reminded me of when we had guest on that specifically talked about that. And recently, without wanting to pick up that mantle and throw it out there again because of all the grief, the hashtag not at my table stuff. And here's a couple of things that really hit home to me when I listened to the pod. I went and listened to that today on my driving around. And one of the things that they said, which I think had been said better than anybody else, just because you don't see something happen doesn't mean it doesn't exist. And I know a lot of people, like, I've never seen that, I've never been part of that, I've never been in a group where that's happened. Doesn't mean it doesn't. So, to highlight that, it's one thing to be a female player, but as a female DM, do you think or seem to get any flack from that? Like, you don't have any credibility because of it.
Absolutely. On my Twitter, every so often I'll post something and I'll get some flack for it, and I'm like, all right, well, now I have to sit here and back everything up.
Right,
it's like, let me screenshot the DMG and the PHB for you. Here it is.
And you feel that's because you're a female DM? And of course you have a...
I have to question that, but yeah, I do.
Well, you've got the name DM Dicetress, so obviously, and then of course there's that, you know, you've got your enigmatic Twitter photo, so there's nobody guessing whether or not you're male or female.
Right.
So, but it's really curious to wonder if that has anything to do with it. I have seen firsthand in hobby stores, at conventions and stuff, this stuff happening, where if you are not a average white dude, you are going to cop some flack. And it's really curious because I hear all the time, well, there aren't that many female DMs. I probably know at least 15 to 20 of them. But there are not many out there. Not many that push themselves to the forefront. Because most of them have had that stigma. They have encountered it. So when they go to conventions, they're less likely to volunteer to run a game. They're more likely to just try to slip into an existing game and play. Because they don't want to step out of that, put themselves on the firing line, because that's literally what you're kind of doing, right?
Yep, absolutely. You are a giant target.
Right. And of course, that's one of the things that the concept that we stand for is inclusion in games, to not do that. And the way you combat that is to assume everybody that shows interest has validity. Don't assume because of this ethnicity or male, female, whatever, that they may or may not. Just assume if they're walking up to you and starting a conversation about your hobby, the hobby that we all love and enjoy, they obviously must have some basis. Judge them based on that and give them instant recognition and validity. If they turn out to be dumbasses at a later date, that's on you. But, you know, at the end of the day, you've got to have that acceptance. So you have got this new podcast. I know you've been working really hard on.
Yes.
In fact, this is kind of sort of where we started talking, was bouncing ideas backwards and forwards months and months ago.
Months, yes.
So why don't you go ahead and tell us what it is that you're doing with the Dead Dice Society, podcast. So tell us about that. Where is it going to be? How can people get in? How can people find it? Or where will it be?
Well, I'll announce that on Twitter. I'll send out a mass message on it, and I'm sure we'll talk about it on your show as far as where it's going to be. I also have a YouTube page. Eventually, from the podcast, I want to take it over to webisodes, but we're just not quite ready to do that yet. A lot of what's slowing me down is learning Audition. But as far as the show is concerned, it's funny, it's silly, it's light, it's campy. It's whimsical. It's no Game of Thrones. It's not to be taken dark and seriously. And I mean, there's some dark undertones, but it's a silly world with, for the most part, my PCs are pretty serious. So you have a silly world and a serious PCs.
Right. There you go. So would you say silly as in kind of like, silly is such a difficult word to describe, because I know... And the reason I want to bring this up is to kind of help clarify some stuff. Silly doesn't necessarily mean idiotic and stupid. It can also mean funny and kind of tongue-in-cheek.
I would say
right?
it's comparable to Ash versus Evil Dead. If you watch that show and you like that kind of style, that humor,
that's what I'm trying to figure out.
That kind of silly is what it is. So it's dark and it's silly, but it's not like... Oh my god, it's so outlandish. I wouldn't want to listen to it.
It's not a warrior whose weapon proficiency is a goose. And he doesn't wear the pants of cheese and stuff like that. Yeah.
Although I am considering a rocket full of chickens.
That could be fun.
Chicken cannon.
Chicken cannon, right? But yeah, it's that's the reason I bring that up is because there's a lot of different types of shows out there, and there's a lot of different people that are going to like one and like the other. And just because something maybe we have viewers that like the show because they like the drama and the tension and stuff, that doesn't mean you're not going to like this.
No.
You have to, right.
Yeah.
You know,
if you follow me on Twitter, then you can see the kind of humor that I have, and a lot of that kind of humor is in the show. Right. If you like Ash versus Evil Dead, then you're probably going to like it.
Right.
Yeah, but it is not a serious show like yours. It's funny, but it's also serious.
Yeah,
but it's not so funny that it's like, oh, I can't watch this.
It's not idiotic, right? Yeah.
Right.
And that's the main thing. Is so I mean, it's going to be. I think it'll be a really fun kind of tongue-in-cheek change to kind of the standard D&D podcast that you see.
Background music, and then there'll also be sound effects too, is what I'm incorporating. So put kind of that old school radio vibe into it, and that's kind of my
yeah, I know the production value is going to be on point because I mean there's been a lot of we had a lot of chats about that.
Yes.
And making sure the production is where it needs to be, is one of the reasons why it's taken a little bit longer to get it where you want it, right?
Exactly. I want it to sound like a movie in your head. So when you're listening to this, I want you to hear the glass shattering. I want you to hear the ups and downs of the music. I want you to feel it and see it.
Right.
So that's what I'm going for there too.
And I think that's a great, that's definitely something that's admirable to do, because when you don't have the visuals to back it up, you only have one sense, and that is audio. And I've listened to a lot of podcasts, and even just when all you can do is solidly listen, everything matters. You hear, it's like one I listened to today. They would play a sound effect, but there was a long pause before the sound effect and after the sound effect, which made the sound effect pointless, if you know what I'm saying.
Oh, no.
But I knew what they were going for, but their timing was off. And then I've heard other podcasts that sound like they're all talking in a tin can.
Right.
And it doesn't matter how interesting it is, it's much
That's
harder to endure it. Especially as podcasts tend to usually be an hour or more.
Yep.
So you got to really, really hold my interest if you want me to listen to you solidly for an hour.
Exactly.
And if the audio was bad, so I think that's, that is definitely something that is going to be awesome to actually have a D&D related podcast with an audio quality
that's high.
Right.
The first 2 episodes, I'm not guaranteeing high audio quality because I had some issues with my mixer recorder. But I lost 2 of the podcasts that we recorded.
Right.
Due to impedance issues.
Oh no.
So we had to go redo it, and I'm like, okay. Right. So, but the 3rd and 4th episodes should be on point 100%.
There you go. And don't feel bad, because I can tell you our audio quality wasn't the best it's been. I know a lot of podcasts, when they first start, you listen to the first 2 or 3 episodes, and they're always, less quality than they are once they've kind of got all their kinks worked out. So that's just a standard thing. I know one of our friends of the show who does the Blue Collar Geeks, they had some serious issues with audio for the first couple of podcasts that they did, and then finally they solved all those problems. So yeah, it's part of the thing. So before we move on to the general Q&A, let's see if chat wants to chime in on the topic that we're talking about. I noticed I was checking out some chat. Several people have said that they'd had no successes finding a decent group, but they have done so through the community here on Howreroll, which is fantastic. So that's one of the things that I know about our community, is the fact that a lot of them have come together and do play games via Roll20 or whatever. Some of them have made some very good real-life friends through the chat community. So, dare I say it, this is a great place to find fellow D&D players.
There you go.
So,
it's a perfect spot for it.
That's a cool thing. But if you guys, as I said, anyone wants to chime in on this before we go to the general Q&A, and this way we can kind of keep these questions on topic, and then, you know, we'll go to the general Q&A after that. Deluded Raven, you got kicked out of your group because you drank too much during D&D sessions. You know, I know some D&D sessions where that would have been encouraged. And they would have kicked you out for being too sober. So, you know, it's catch-22. Let's see. And not just D&D at Howreroll. I've had some interest in a Star Wars role-playing game. Oh, absolutely. I mean, Call of Cthulhu, Star Wars, World of Darkness games, they're all out there. And you can find all of those through the Roll20 network.
I played World of Darkness last night. As a matter of fact, it was a lot of fun. I think a couple of the people I played with are here and streaming today. They're watching me. Hey, guys, shout out. It's a lot of fun.
Yep. And that's the thing is, you know, the virtual tabletop that we now have through Roll20 or Fantasy Grounds, just where was that 5 years ago? I mean, you know.
I don't know, but I'm going to say with Milk, I know, man, Mistborn. Oh my god, I love those books. Those are amazing. And I hear there is a game. I wikied it one day. But I would love to put it together.
Which World of Darkness game did you play, Dicetress?
Oh, I don't know. I'm going to say it was an older one, and it was 2d6s. Is how you found a lot of your abilities and things and whatnot.
Gotcha. Was it vampire related or? Oh,
it was more the archetypes were actually D&D ones, rogues, mage, and whatnot. But I have played Vampire the Masquerade, Nog, Werewolf. So I've played a lot of the White Wolf stuff before.
Gotcha. Alrighty. Okay, well, the questions are starting to change to become more generic, so we're going to go ahead and push on to our final segment this evening and let you guys ask your questions.
Do I play Magic the Gathering right now? No, because it's crack. I spent way too much time preparing my decks, and it's so expensive.
Oh, yeah.
So I had to take a step back.
Alrighty, so we're going into our final segment here, your viewers' questions and answers.
Viewer questions and answers.
Alrighty, so yes, now is the time to throw them at us. As always, if you put at Howreroll or just put Howreroll in the question before you ask it, it will make sure that it pops out from all the rest of the chat and we can make sure we ask them. So let's have a look here. They're turning Mistborn into a video game this year? That's awesome.
That is amazing. Oh my god.
Alrighty. Yeah, if there's anything you want to know about Dicetress, seeing as this is really the first chance you've actually had to kind of talk to her and get to know her, feel free to throw those questions at us as well. Howreroll, did Awadi actually have cleric levels, or was he just nuts? He did not have any cleric levels. He wasn't just nuts, but months and months of living in fear of being eaten and seclusion did take a little bit of toll. MC asked a question of Dicetress, have you ever played Shadowrun?
I played it once or twice. I didn't get too involved with it. At the time, I was kind of going through game at a hobby store, so it was like they'd run a one-shot of this, they'd run a one-shot of that, and I would just kind of bounce.
There you go. Milk says, in before Awadi is the final boss, right?
Awadi will take his retribution out on us for not coming back to thank him. He'll be like, you did not say you did not thank me.
That's right. Where's my bloody boat? I said you could use it to get off the island. You're supposed to bring it back.
I want it back.
Howreroll, any progress with the Howreroll board game? A little bit. The biggest problem we have right now, it's still going to be finding artistes and stuff like that, and getting all that worked out. But there's a little bit of mechanical work going on. I've incorporated the assistance of a couple of game designers that are, bless their hearts, helping on the mechanical side of things pro bono, because they just want to see the game come out. So right now we are very much in the game mechanics phase. Let's just put it that way. Dicetress, who do you hate the most in the cast, and why? Is it Shagget? Question mark.
It's not Shagget. You know what? Liv doesn't hate anybody. She really wants to touch Shagget's horns, though, because she cannot produce any animals right now with horns. So she is like, how the hell? I mean, I know he said something about magic and maybe a curse or something, but I have got to touch those horns to figure out how I can replicate them. I got that lizard thing down. I'm gonna get those horns down.
There you go. Xavier says, are either of you fans of the Baldur's Gate series? I personally am. I played through all of them and loved them. What about you?
Never really touched too much into them.
Okay, there you go. DB Wallaka says, Dicetress, what would Liv do if she became a werewolf?
Well, she can become a wolf, but if she was bit with lycanthropy, I don't know. We're getting into Strahd realm.
Right.
I guess that would be a DM's call on what would happen there.
Well, I mean, it's, you got to stop and think that werewolves are not natural, right? They're unnatural. So I don't know that, as a druid, I don't know that an average druid... Now, an evil druid might embrace that. An evil druid may embrace the concept of losing her mind to the feral instinct of the wolf and becoming so, feral.
Ravage, yeah.
Right. Whereas I think your typical druid probably would see that more of it as an abomination.
An abomination?
Yeah.
That's true.
But
what would I do, though?
Right. It's like, if that was you, if you found out you had been cursed with lycanthropy, how would Liv behave? What would she do?
Liv, at this day and age, would probably want a cure for it. Because she's not in that mindset of destruction.
Right. There you go. We'll see that may or may not change.
That may or may not change. As everything I'm taking, I'm not sure what Liv is going to do next.
Rickmo's got a good question for you, Dicetress. What would you like to see Liv? What would you like to see Liv grow and be able to do in the coming weeks?
Oh, let's see. How would I would like to be able to roleplay what she's going to become. And right now, it's pretty subtle. I've been throwing out hints about her background. It's not in your face. I am a human, and I am playing a norm.
Right.
So
you're normie.
I'm a norm. I'm like Marilyn from the Munsters.
Right.
So I hope soon I can start to see where her choices and what she sees and what she's intaking will affect her character.
Right. And of course, the whole thing with any character is like, you've got to have a basis in order to acknowledge growth, right? So this is what you guys are seeing right now. This is who Liv, Lilith, Tolgar, and Emlyn are currently. The fun is going to be to watch them change and grow as the story goes on. Without a basis for start, it's kind of hard to do that. So I think if you look at all four of these, I would say right now, and this is just as an observation, and not going specifically because one is lawful neutral and one is true neutral, whatever. But you can definitely see the personality differences. You can see how Liv is probably a little bit more grounded and more wary of certain decisions, as opposed to, say, Tolgar, or as opposed to, say, Lilith. Whereas Lilith, if you guys have noticed, Lilith has a kind of a diverse path in the fact that there are certain things where she can be compassionate about, and then others that she doesn't give a shit about. And I'm sure that's starting to show through a little bit. Let's see. Have you ever played in the Dark Eye verse? I have not.
No.
Sadly, no. Neither of us have.
Dread is one of my favorite games, though. I ran Dread a few times here. If anybody's played Silent Memories Dread, amazing game. So
I played
cool.
Judge Dredd. It's a role-playing game. Let's see. Looking for more questions. Here's another one from RTJ Alchemy. Dicetress, how does Liv see the other characters in the party? Are they just a means to an end or potential friends or companions? We touched on that a little bit earlier, but he maybe have missed that. So you can go ahead and throw over that again real quick.
Liv views everybody as, in her mind, as human, but also who they would be as an animal. So Tolgar, I explained as an ape, a gorilla, for his physical stats, but also because she knows that his tribe is slightly maddened, and she has seen gorillas and apes destroy, but they are very intellectual. I would say she views Lilith as a black widow, very beautiful on her web, spinning and dancing, but also capturing her prey and wheeling them in. She likes her. There's a lot of traits that she would love maybe to bring into her own self, because she sees how much fun she could be.
Right.
She sees the sadness in her, but she also sees that she has a little bit of a wild streak, and she does seem to have some fun in her. So Liv is automatically attracted to that because her personality is fun. I mean, other than the down things that she's been going through, but before all that, she was a lot of fun. As far as Emlyn, I would say she views him as a hyena, because he can be vicious with his tackles up, but he can also slink down to the floor and cower like a dog.
Right.
She wants his horn. She wants to know how those horns happened. How can she replicate that? Is she going to be his friend? Maybe. She kind of feels like he's similar to her stepbrother, and the fact that he likes to banter and push her buttons. So she might. She's starting to view him a little bit as like our stepbrother. So.
Right. So I mean, we noticed that Lilith tried to free there was the girl that was trapped on board the ship, and Lilith tried to free her, and Emlyn and Tolgar basically ignored her and just went for their own self-preservation. But you actually went back and tried to assist her in freeing the captured girl, because she had the beam had come down across her legs and had pinned her in place. So does that, something like that, does that kind of give you maybe more of an interest in a bond with Lilith than the others, or do you think that was just purely more circumstantial?
It did, because in Liv's back life, in her story, there was a time where she became a bear, and she had her paw trapped in one of those bear traps. And a hunter came by and released her, and she ran away. So she actually understood why that girl ran away. It was common flight. But she appreciated that hunter for sparing her life, and she appreciated Lilith for looking at that human and saying, I should help them set them free, which is why she did the same thing.
There you go. I mean, and that makes sense. And I think it's going to be interesting to kind of watch how the relationships of these particular characters start to build, because they are all so very different. I don't think there's anything that any of them really have in common at all. But at the same time, they're finding that there are things that they're now beginning to have in common through circumstance. So that's going to be, I think that's one of the things I'm really looking forward to. So we have another question, and this really, I think we can both answer this one, from Glitch EXP. He says, how often do DMs fudge the numbers behind the screen? Have you ever changed damage dice to avoid an untimely PC death? What's your take on that? Well, I'm not gonna lie, I have fudged some rolls because I wanted the party to have fun. You're entertaining. There's two schools of thoughts. Let it happen, and if they die, you can bring them back later, or you can do other creative solutions to it. Or go with what your table feels. Do you want them to die, or are they going to be really upset about it? Right.
So it just really depends. Have I fudged rolls? Yeah, I have on occasion.
I would absolutely say I've done that too. And it does very, as you just said, it varies very differently from group to group. I have some games where I play around a table with, and I'll have a DM screen up, and I'll roll dice and the same thing. I have a kind of a methodology to when I fudge and when I don't. Other games, I do not use a DM screen. With my what I would call veteran players groups, I don't do that. You get what you get. My methodology is this much. Some encounters are meant to be dangerous and meant to be deadly. And they're the ones when I want the dice to be rolled openly. Now this is talking from a generic D&D thing, and I'll address how we do things slightly different on the show here in a minute. But let's just say, let's take our party. Now that encounter with the cannibals was clearly meant for them to kick ass and chew bubblegum. They were tougher than the cannibals in every way, shape, or form. Now, if I'd have had a DM screen up and I start rolling and the very first thing, 20, oh crap, I just critted Emlyn. Okay, he can take that. Then he gets hit again. Holy crap, another crit? This level 2 cannibal is about to
annihilate,
kill one of my main. At that point, I may make that crit not a crit. It was a hit maybe, and maybe it only did 3 or 4 points of damage, but I would fudge the damage down because the circumstance was not something within the character's control, the player's control. Now, as a DM, and I'm sure Dicetress can back this up, there are times as a DM where we will say certain things to you players, such as, are you sure you want to do that? You look at the guy and think, he looks really, really tough. Maybe starting a fight with this guy isn't the best thing to do. Or, I'm going to climb a 200-foot cliff. You know you don't have any climbing spikes or ropes, right? I don't care. I'm climbing it.
Featherfall?
Right. You understand, if you fall near the top, the damage is going to kill you. Your character's probably really having maybe some second thoughts. Nope, damn it, I'm going to do it. All right, you know what, dumbass? Right. In other words, if you do something inherently dumb as a player, I will allow you to eat those dice as they roll. Because if I can't talk you out of it or give you some subtle hints that what you're doing is stupid, you get what you get. So
that, and there's been scenarios where my players have come up with really unique, creative ideas to overcome obstacles, which inspiration points would help. But if they didn't have inspiration points and it's like, wow, I want to see that happen. That sounds so freaking excellent. Right. I don't want to. It's like you roll in, you're like, oh shit, no.
Yep.
It's like you could make a moment out of it and be like, all right, this happened. But it's like you have all those faces staring at you, all with that determination of, yeah, this is gonna happen. I'm so psyched, and you're just like, oh.
You know, and that is so funny you say that. The differences on how we roll is you guys don't like it when you can't see my dice rolls. So when we first started in how we roll, you would often hear clink, 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 clink across my table as I would roll dice. But people didn't like that because they wanted to see them. So what I started doing is, generally speaking, because of the level of tension that we go for, and we're very story-driven, on how we roll, just about all dice are open rolls. Unless they're ones that the players are not meant to see, in which case then I'll use the /GM roll. Chat gets to see them, players don't. So it's a little different, again, for the stream, but that's more for the visual side for you guys, not because it is the way I would normally do it.
Right now, I can't see my screen. I see chat, but I can't. It says stream times and the times listed, and that is it. And when we go live, the first couple of seconds we'll see it, and then he freezes it, and it just kind of swirls, and I'm just like,
I don't know why yours does that, because it's not on my side.
I don't know. I'll screenshot it and show it to you, though. I'm just
what you probably need to, it's either, if it's doing that, it's either like a flash thing needs updating, or sometimes when you first log in to watch a show on Twitch, sometimes you have to like come out and come back in. which is really weird.
Maybe.
Some chats sometimes say that. But you should
Yeah.
be able to see it. As a general rule of thumb, though, it's best if you don't watch the actual show anyway. Because
There's a lag.
well, that's right. It's 15-second lag. It's really confusing because you're watching it live in Roll20.
Right, before you froze it, I'm like,
Right.
here, and then I was like, oh, what the hell? So the first episode, I'm just like, what the frick is going on? I'm like doing this over here.
DB says, besides D&D, what is your favorite tabletop role-playing game? Oh, and Twitch just did it again.
Oh,
Very
Twitch.
interesting.
You know what? Silent Memories Dread is probably going to be the top favorite. The next one would be Call of Cthulhu. Anything dark, creepy, scary. I love losing insanity points. I think it's amazing. Don't give me a gun, guys. I mean, do give me a gun. No. I love playing crazy. It's fun.
Right. Yeah, I would say Call of Cthulhu is probably either Call of Cthulhu or Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay are my other two favorites.
Yep, Mutants and Masterminds is also very, very cool. I love shooting things out of my hands and my eyes and my elbows. I'm just like, let's do this thing.
Right.
Superheroes.
Bucks Wild, have you had any of your adventures published or considered publishing them? We have been approached numerous times to publish specifically the Marks of Intrigue. The sad thing is, I don't have time. I mean, as I've said before, what a campaign looks like, and I will show you real quick if you haven't seen it. This is what this right here. This ragtag ton of note papers and stuff. This is the last campaign. This is what it looks like in my hands. For me to turn this into a format that could be published would be an awful lot of work. And in order to continue to do this, if at any point I stop doing the show, at that point then I may tackle it. But for right now, just don't have the time or the energy, dudes. I wish I could
And
say
if
otherwise.
his DM notes are any as bad as mine, they're so scattered, and it's like
Exactly.
you'll come up with an idea, and it'll be on the back of one of the other papers, and if somebody was to read through it, they'd be, what the hell is even going on? And you're just like, I know what it means, don't worry about it.
Right. Howreroll, next one-off, you should consider a grindhouse. Have the players bring 3 characters each and plan on having some of them killed off. Hey, it's an idea.
Yes. Excellent.
Let's see here. Are there any feats or spells you off the bat homebrew for your campaign, like Lucky? I don't allow Lucky. It's bullshit. That's one of the if you're on about the
A woman. Well, now I know. Thanks. I'm gonna take that next.
Oh yeah, no. Lucky
Jeez.
is Lucky is
Taking
one
away
of
alert
those.
too, right?
Lucky is one of those that is, for this type of storytelling, it's broken. Inspiration is one thing. Lucky, it's like it's a hell of a trait. So we generally don't use Lucky, but of course, other than 5th edition, it hasn't really existed. Shagad answered it before I did, look. Let's see. I didn't get the answer. My Twitch is being stupid. Yeah, I know, dude. What was your question? Let me go back up to it. Oh, we both pretty much said Call of Cthulhu.
Call of Cthulhu's Amazeballs. Any of them, any century played in, I love it. To be able to, it's just amazing, man. That's all I got. Oh my god.
When you play Call of Cthulhu, do you always play period 1920s?
1920s is fun. I play different modern time. Any of them is fine.
Yep. I always preferred 1920s or the 1800s. Cthulhu by Gaslight, that was fun too.
Then I can start speaking about the fishies and whatnot.
Right.
You're a little gangster.
Let's have a look here.
Yeah, 1920s I played in October, actually. It was a good game on Roll20. Again, pickup groups on Roll20, it's not too hard to find them. You just, put out what you've played before or you're interested in playing for the first time, and people will let you in. The groups themselves might not be amazing, but it's hit or miss. But it is a good place to start, and people do, they'll let you in.
And that's right, because I mean, it's one of those things that a lot of people, a lot of people have, the same problem. So they're all looking to solve the problem the same way with you guys. So that's a cool thing. Let's see here. Looks like it's playing up again, briefly. That's odd. Twitch is going derpy again. Yeah, I'm not sure why. It's being a bit funny. So it's okay on my side, but in the past it's been a Comcast issue, we know, but this is not that. Doesn't look like it. I mean, everything looks fine on my side, so I'm not entirely sure.
Mr. Hoots, go fix Twitch.
Right. What is your favorite board game?
Oh, my favorite board game. My goodness. Munchkins is one of my favorite games. Call of Cthulhu, the board game, is fun. It's a long time playing. Does Star Wars count? I guess so. Game. It's it's miniatures and things. It's kind of board game-ish.
Right.
Let's see. Munchkins, yeah.
Munchkins is a good board game.
Yeah.
Evolution is fun. Evolution is a fairly new game. That's fun. I guess my favorite. It's not really
Cards
a board
Against
game.
Humanity. Oh, that's not a board game, but Cards Against Humanity.
I was about to say the same thing.
Favorite.
Gloom is probably one of my favorite games to play. That's not a role-playing game, but it's not a board game. It's a card game as well. My favorite board game is Tabletop Sim, so you can play all of them. There you go.
My least favorite game is probably Life.
Did it just get louder for everybody else? That's weird, dude. Yeah. What's up, Paul? Welcome back, man. Dicetress, favorite video game?
Right now, currently, Witcher is my go-to. Like, I totally am in love and obsessed with Witcher. It is fantastic. Before Witcher, BioShock. Whoa, hello. BioShock. I replayed all of them so many times. It's like, Silent Hill.
That's a good game.
Also a good game, except for the tank controls, which I've seemed to have forgotten in my adult life. Back in the kid day, I was like, yeah, shit's coming through the window, I got this. And now in my adult times, I'm like, why are things upside down and backwards? These tank controls are driving me crazy. I can't even.
Yep. It's harder to game when you're adult. When you have to adult, it's harder to game.
I've gotten used to other. I'm now confused.
I'm definitely nowhere near as good at first-person shooters as I used to be when I was younger. That's for sure. And I'm a die-hard keyboard warrior. I don't do well with
controllers.
Yeah, I don't like I don't do well with my thumbs.
I like the camera action from the keyboard stuff.
Right.
The mouse, but I can play either.
Well, cool beans. Alrighty, well, we're way past where we should be. So thank you guys for hanging out with us this evening. Thanks for joining us here on Dialogues and Dice. We're here almost 2 hours.
Wow.
Long show today. There you go. But yeah, thanks guys for hanging out with us. Join us Thursday for the continuation of the story, Wrath of the Fallen. Find out what these guys get up to when they encounter the crew aboard the vessel that they have just climbed on. There you go, right. So yes, thank you guys. Thank you for the new followers. Thank you for our subscribers, new subscribers. Thank you each and every one of you that hung out with us today. You all rock our socks. Thank you, Amanda, for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Thank you for watching. Absolutely.
All right, guys. We will catch you later. Bye, y'all. Goodbye.
Bye, guys. Thank you.
Okay, and we're out. I gotta add something to the... I need to add something to Dialogues and Dice. I forgot to add it last week, and I need to add it this week. Add video, the outro video. Outro video.
How many people did we have on? I don't think I can see it on ours.
It was in the 60s, 70s, which is fairly average for a talk show. One of the talk shows. They never draw the numbers that the shows themselves do.
Did we get a lot of new followers?
Let's see. We got about 7, which is again fairly common for a talk show. The talk show really is more for the crew. It's really more aimed at the people that it's more like a support show than for the people that already watch it than anything else. So it varies. The most I've ever seen on a talk show is about 140.
Gotcha.
So, and again, we're coming off of the back of the holidays, which is, you can always tell. But, and then with Twitch having some stupid issues doesn't help either.
Yeah.
Hi there, I'm Gorbad. Welcome to the Orc's Nest. I'm the Dungeon Master here on Howreroll, and if you'd like to follow me personally, you can do so on Twitter @Gorbad. Check out thedmblog.com for all things Dungeon Master and Dungeons & Dragons related. And of course, you can follow me on twitch.tv/Gorbad. Also, guys, don't forget to keep up with all things Howreroll. Follow us on Twitter @Howreroll. Check out the website www.howreroll.com, and make sure you follow us on YouTube as well. Cheers, guys.
I'm the Dragon Spooker, and I play Femme Fatale Lilith Edenwood the Dancer. You can follow me on my Twitch channel at twitch.tv/thedragonspooker or on Twitter @dragonspooker. You guys rock my face off, and I can't wait to see you next stream.
Look, I get it. I'm not as cool as Emlyn, the tiefling warlock I play for Howreroll. The dude has 20 charisma. And, well, you guys have seen how I roll. If you suffer from character is cooler than you-itis, maybe we can help each other. Follow me on Twitter @eneb_convos. Maybe make a moderate difference. Let's do this, guys.
Hello and well met. My name is Liv on Howreroll. And when I'm not Liv on Howreroll, I'm Amanda or DM Dicetress on Twitter. I have an up-and-coming new podcast called Dead Dice Society you'll be sure not to want to miss. Thank you for watching.
Thanks for watching another episode of Wrath of the Fallen. I'm Jane, and you can follow me on Twitter, the only place where it counts, @Jane on Twitch. That's with a 0, not an O. Peace, suckers. So bad.